Last season, I had so many amazing people pull up on me. Mark Edmonds, DJ TGIF, Decky Lawson, King Bump, Albany Lou, Bobby Murray, and so many more. This season, I promise you, it's going to be just as interesting, so do the right thing. Pull up a chair at the Bar Wit Beast, Season 2. Yo, welcome to another episode of At the Bar Wit Beast. Today I'm here with my guy, Mr. Everyday.
Yes, sir.
If you don't know who he is, it's because you just see what people give you and you don't do your research. It's as simple as that, because this guy has been behind, beside, and around so much of the stuff that we all know and are familiar with. So it's time to get familiar with him if you wasn't. Mr. Everyday, appreciate you
I appreciate you
for
for having me
man.
here, brother. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful space of yours here.
Yo, thank you,
You
man.
know what I mean? Salute you.
Yes, sir, D.
You should have been a bartender in your former life.
Yeah.
That's a perfect blend.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
And the funny thing, I really don't drink like that. Like, I drink with guests. I drink
too.
socially.
I'm totally social.
That's why it's bottles with so much stuff in them.
I'm gonna say I'll have a bottle for like a year still sitting there.
Yeah, like I have certain bottles that I'm never gonna open. You know what I mean? That is, I have never.
My
had
10-year anniversary
intention.
bottles like that. My partner P Gutty got me the Ace of Spades joint. You know what I mean? I came with the case and all that. I'm like, man, this is like a trophy.
See,
Just
my
sit
man
there.
Phil got me that joint over there. I'm never opening that. My wife bought me some Mama Juana back from DR.
Yeah,
that's gonna sit.
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
That's gonna be forever. Your kids will toast that on you when you off to the ancestors.
Yeah,
Like, Pops, we opened it in that.
We got a bottle of the Ciroc Amaretta flavor that they discontinued because they said people didn't like it.
Really?
And at one point, one of the little spots out here was letting the big bottles go for like $15 a bottle.
Oh, yeah.
So we used to get a bunch of them. So we drunk them all and then kept one, never opened it. So we still got one bottle, never touched.
Hold that down. For sure.
So, but yeah, so I was one of those people in the dark. I didn't know who you were. And shout out to King Bump.
Yep.
I seen you on King Bump show talking my shit
my guy.
live on Facebook.
That's
you know what I mean?
Yep.
And your story was just so interesting to me. And at the end of the interview, I could tell there was more. I'm like, yo, bro has so much more to talk about. Like, you was trying to talk fast, doing your best to try to get as much information as you could. But I'm like, yo, bro has so much. I want to talk to him. I want, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So that's why I contacted you, because I wanted to know what else. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that.
So I went and did my little research. I did some, like I said, I ran into some articles. I've seen some other interviews other than the Bump joint. And came across your dad and his history.
Yeah.
Then I came across your godfather, and I'm like, oh, that was him.
Yeah, man.
Bro.
I mean, the industry, like the whole industry knows,
Yeah.
the real industry knows who he is.
Yeah.
He sampled his music. It's been countless hits. You know, Drake, De La, Eminem, Chuck D, Talib, Mos Def. Like, I could just keep naming names of people that have sampled his music, know exactly who he is.
Nah, that's,
you know,
that's fire.
That's why I got some things planned, you know, because it's come, you know, every certain amount of years, you kind of have to like recycle the history because the, you know, certain elders have moved on and they're not really here to represent for the culture the way they are. Like, you know, we're gonna go through the same thing with Pac. Like in another 25 years, people gonna have to be like, "Nigga, you don't know who Pac was?"
Yep,
like, you know what I mean?
Yep,
So
and then somebody to reinvent something.
It's important for the culture. Like, that, I think that's a lot of times why our music industry is so diluted, because we don't have enough like of the OGs that really like leaning back and saying, "Here, brother, here's the history." You know what I mean? And I think the reason why like people like Drake are so successful is because he has that. You know, people think that that's just like an accident of like, no, he's a pure student of the game. You know what I mean? And his understanding of who, what, why it was successful, and then incorporating some of that and adding it to his swag. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know, it's important. So I just kind of felt like this year, coming into my 10-year anniversary of being on WCDB 90.9 FM and everything, that it was time for me to kind of more or less pop out and really let people know, because I'm low key for the most part.
I see.
You know, I quietly. I don't know if you ever. I always talk about that movie with LL Cool J and I think it was Omar Epps And he was like, you know, are you from Akron, Ohio? Like, I didn't know they was getting money out in Akron, Ohio.
He was
like,
well, if you
keep it
they
quiet,
know,
I keep getting money in Akron, Ohio. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, God.
So that's kind of like, you know, how I move. Like,
but
I level up to the bag. Shh, quiet. Yeah, everybody got to know. This ain't for everybody, you know. But I feel like now is the time, like, you know what I mean, for me, because I'm ready to, like, to really pass on certain things and also help elevate this region.
And you know what? It's unfortunate, but once you analyze it and know it, I guess we got to take advantage of it if we're the guys that want to be pouring into the people. We're in a day and age where if you don't got a couple dollars, people won't even believe your story.
Right.
Meanwhile, you can get the jewel of your life from a homeless person.
Yes, I always say that.
But people, you know what I mean? Like, people don't want to go to a barber with a messed up haircut.
Right. Right. That's true. It's true. No, it's true. Even though he the illest
ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He just don't take care of his own.
He don't got time for his own because he's so busy
doing for others.
Right. People don't see that.
Right. That's a fact.
But let's talk about your dad.
So
just real quick.
Which one?
Your actual dad. I know he
So yeah,
he was a drummer, a poet,
so my
and an
biological
educator.
father, Ade. It's funny how like Ade every day because it really never was a connection to those two names other than the spiritualness of it having the same Ade every day. We didn't plan that.
Copy.
He didn't give it to me. He didn't like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Ade means the king's crown.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? And he's a master drummer.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was you know, we came from like my grandparents was like super poor, like combined income of like 8 racks on my father's side a year. Like there wasn't my grandfather was a porter, and my grandmother used to clean rich white Jewish ladies' homes, but at a low level. Like she wasn't getting paid like she was high end.
Yeah.
She was bottom, you know, but she was a very immaculate, you know, detail oriented. So she used to clean a lot of Jewish people's homes. So they were very poor. She didn't even graduate grammar school. You know what I'm saying? And I think my grandpa was he's from the Bahamas. We from the Bahamas, Nassau, Bahamas.
Yep.
Right? And then my grandmother was Savannah, Georgia.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Then they eventually came up to New York, right? So that history went into my pops where it was kind of like, y'all the first generation of that's gonna have anything at all. Like, you know what I mean? In terms of like, you know, being able to have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because my great grandmother was a slave. Like my grandmother lived to be 100, my great grandmother lived to be 114. I knew my great grandmother.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So we lived to be like, I have a lot of family members. We do hundreds in my family. Herbalists, things like that, organic from the root. You know what I mean? So my father, and then he has a twin brother and a twin sister, my two twin aunt and uncle. And so my uncle was one of the best point guards in the nation back in the early 70s. Jackie Knowles, you might look him up. You know, he was an insane point guard, recruited by everybody, playground legend. And so my father, his thing was education. So he was like, you know, Columbia University grad, like, you know what I mean? Lincoln University, Columbia Masters, RPI doctorate degree, like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, not RPI, but SUNY Rockefeller College, Rockefeller School. Yeah. Like he leveled up, but his whole thing was, he was a very like disciplined man, and he was heavy with civil rights, movement back in the 60s. So he was involved with CORE, which was like, I don't want to say it was equivalent to the Black Panthers because it wasn't the Black Panther Party. Yeah. There was a whole bunch of different movements that all worked collectively. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So CORE was a non-violent movement, and they did a lot of peaceful protests, but with numbers. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you're gonna pull the hose out, but you're gonna have to hose 10 racks. Like, you know what I mean? You're gonna have to hose 10 racks, and we're ready to get arrested because we already got bail money. Like, you know what I mean? So they were very radical in that sense. You know what I mean? And making change, and like they changed a lot of laws and sat down on bridges and marched on Washington with Martin Luther King, you know. And then, you know, so one of the things that, you know, was a part of my history is that some of the Black Panthers obviously used to come into different meetings and try to get, you know, radicalize them, and they would just have debates about the way they should go about things. So Tupac's father used to come to our house a lot, you know what I mean, Mutulu, stepfather actually, and the Shakur clan, you know what I mean. Yeah. So I had a lot of like roots in that regard, like the way my philosophy was growing up, you know what I mean? I understood like empowerment, understanding like the way education and knowledge and unity and organization. You know, I went to a Muslim daycare. At the age of 3, I knew all the planets in the solar system. You know what I'm saying? So my father was always just like, We wore dashikis. Me and my brother like to hold the kufis and the dashikis, everything. So you know, I went to like I was singing at a young age. I was dancing. I always just grew up in a super musical home. Like my father was around. And the crazy thing is, like, they used to Mount Morris Park in New York City was a famous park where a lot of the legends came to. Back then, they wasn't legends. Yeah. They was pioneers. You know what I mean? Well, and they used to come drum, and it was like the Last Poets, which were Abiodun Oyewole is my uncle, the Last Poets, and they've been sampled also tremendously, and so it was the Last Poets. It was Gil. It was my father. My Gil and my pops, they pretty much grew up together. You know what I mean? And then they also went to Lincoln University together for 1 year, because when Gil dropped out, he got his first book deal, an album deal for $5,000, Dutchman Records, and his album was called Small Talk on 125th Street. And then he wrote I think The Vulture. The Vulture was a story about, it was like a story about Chelsea, like growing up in Chelsea area and everything. It was great. It was a murder mystery. Fire book. Yo, bro, fire book. Huh? That and this book called The Nigga Factory. That's what it's called. That was his second book about going to a historically black college. You know what I mean? But The Vulture, fire. And so, you know, my pops like had me very disciplined, music, everything, and we had and we come from the era of like it takes a village to raise a family. That was very significant. That's something that we've gotten away from here. Where it's like kids can't yell at somebody, be ready to fight. No, it's like nah. If I walk down the street and somebody mom see me doing some shit, she on my ass, on my ass, and you gonna get it when I call your mother. Facts. And then the first thing she gonna know, did you give him the? Yes, I gave it to him, but there's still some more ass left for you. Like, I saved you some. So we grew up like that with a tight, structure, and survival was like survival of our culture back then more so because we had to unite. So, I was like the last. I always say I'm like the youngest I'm the oldest of the new school and the youngest of the old. I was a baby of the old school. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm a bridge between old and new. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And because I understand both cultures and I can live and gravitate to. So like I said, my pops, he instilled a lot of stuff in me, but he himself, he was a great drummer, djembe, kung. I mean, you name it. Like my pops when he passed away recently during COVID, and he thank you. He had like 40 racks worth of instruments. When you like every percussionist we think. So I grew up playing everything. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that instilled in me. But it wasn't. I wouldn't even say it was my passion though. It wasn't my passion. It was just there. It was just so much a part of me. And then I was into like I was definitely into like breakdance and stuff when I got older. But I was a sports fanatic from like how my son is now. Like when I was 6, 7 years old, I was playing every sport. So I really could have went to any league. Cause I wasn't even in high school when I was starting on varsity. Great. All right, so let's go there. So. You started off going to what I like to call the school on the hill, Don Stewart. So go to Don Stewart. When I coached AAU, my second season of coaching AAU, I used to use their gymnasium. But the old Don Stewart, not the new Don Stewart. I went to the South Pearl when it was in a convent. When it was super like high end, like the majority of the people that were going there were from different countries. Gotcha. It was a boarding school. All right. And then they allowed a certain members of the community to bus in. So I was busing in. I was on a bus with Albany Academy kids and a couple other kids that would be on my drop, whatever. And I had like maybe 1 or 2 kids from my neighborhood went there. Yeah, and I didn't even know how much my pops was paying. Like he was paying a heavy bag. He was paying college tuition bags. You know what I mean? Yes, like I know. And I went to for 7th, 8th, and 9th. So for middle school, I went to Eagle Brook Academy. Out in Deerfield, Massachusetts, which was a boarding school. Yeah. And they had a couple of students that, like you said, bus in. And then the faculty, their kids get to go there for free. Right. But that cost a couple dollars. I got an academic scholarship, so I wasn't paying. And not just that, like because of it was at a time when they was trying to get a couple of underprivileged kids in. Yeah. So I was the only black kid in my class.
Yeah, I had a 350 student body. It might have been 8 black kids in the school.
I was the only one in my grade level.
Yeah.
So I went there. I went to the one on South Pearl before they
built the one
to
on
Rensselaer.
the hill.
Now it's on Rensselaer.
Gotcha.
But I went there and they didn't have reason why I wound up transferring over to public school is because they didn't have no football.
Gotcha.
They had soccer, baseball, basketball, track, and lacrosse.
Gotcha.
So I was playing soccer and baseball, and then because my pops was so strict, he didn't really want me to rock out with the sports like that. Like I was on varsity and everything. I was killing. I was in 8th grade starting leadoff hitter, third base in 8th grade.
He like, nah.
Yeah, and he was just like, nah, the books. So like I in a way I feel like he messed me up because I felt like I would have been in the league. I would have been in somebody's league. But I got bitter because I felt like when all my other friends were like going into these other specialized programs, like this training for this and like you know how they have other things to keep going, he wasn't letting me do that. He was just like books. And then so I kind of got to the point where like I was real nasty in baseball. I wound up quitting baseball because of him. And then I wound up when I transferred over. I had a scholarship in my junior year to go D1 for soccer because of soccer.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't want to play soccer. I want to play football.
You really just played soccer because
that's all they had. That was like the football of the school.
Yeah.
When you go to a private school, soccer is the #1 sport. Right. You know, like that. You know what I mean? Because you playing like these like Harvard type schools.
Yep.
You know, we was playing like Darrow, Birch, like they had, but we also had like the Berkshire Farm, like they were like that was like the hood school.
Gotcha.
The Berkshire Farm, but Darrow was like a rich boarding school. The sister was a rich boarding school, but these were like schools were like parents, like the kids that didn't listen to their parents. They're like multimillionaires. The kids on heroin at 8, and then by the time he's a teenager, they done kick the drug, but he don't care about nobody, nothing. You're going to boarding school, like so. It was a lot of kids, but they were deviant private school kids, like you know what I mean.
Cameron Douglas, Michael Douglas' son, was a classmate of mine out in East.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, bro. So you know. Yeah. So I was going to school with like but we were playing like these Harvard-esque type schools. But it was like for me, I was like, man. And then it was the way they used to play me. Like teams would never. I was an offensive threat at all times, but because of my speed and my strength, they would always put me on defense. So I would be like, we'd be playing teams that was gonna blow us out, and they knew it ahead of time. So instead of them putting me on offense to score, they would have me on defense to try to like stop the bleeding. But it's like, bro, you don't win a game.
Yeah, let me score.
You gotta score to win this game. So they didn't figure it out towards the end of the year, and they literally like put me in. There was this one situation where I was I kept like everybody else was scoring. We was playing a team that wasn't that good. Everybody was scoring, and I was getting mad because everybody's getting their shit up. So I wound up coming all the way from the fullback position, which is all the way next to the goalie, to the point where I was like over the halfway line. I kept cheating over more. Yes. And the coach is like, yo, why does he keep? And they're like, coach, he wants to score. So they're like, you know what? So they tell me, yo, get in there, go get to the front line. Bro, literally within 2 seconds of me getting to the front line, I drilled one to the left corner. They never took me out the front again. Hat trick every game. So you know what I mean? And then like I said, then I leveled that up. Yeah. And then they want that's when UB reached out to me, SUNY Buffalo reached out to me like, yo, we want you to come here. So then when I wound up switching to football, they wanted to just transferring out from a soccer situation to a football situation. Oh. So I wound up actually going to UB for football.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so wait, time out. I don't want to skip this because I need to know this answer. In a school year, there's 3 sports seasons.
Yes.
Right? You start in the fall.
Yes.
Winter.
Yes.
Spring.
Yes.
3 sports. Yeah. How are you a 4 sports? What's the
4 sport varsity letterman? Because of the fact that I was a varsity letterman as an 8th grader playing baseball, right?
Ah, they still gave you your...
Yes.
Ah.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes. And so then, when I transferred over, I went to track. Indoor, you know what I'm saying?
So
and then then I'm picking up and then I picked up the football, and so that's how it became 4 sports.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's how it became 4 sports.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I definitely won them.
Yeah, because I played three in one in public school and one that I didn't play in the private school.
Gotcha.
So that's how I picked up that 4 sport.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'm like, how you get a 4 sport? You played in the summer?
Yeah. That's a good question. Right.
But I figured it had to be something like that, but I wanted to hear about it. So we skipped some, right? Because we started talking about your dad. Let's talk about your godfather. Mm-hmm. Because we're not going to skip you being on tour with Stevie Wonder at 3 years old.
At 3.
What do you remember? Do you remember
you know,
any of that?
And I do. I have like, it's so crazy. I have 2 distinct memories.
Talk to me.
One is bad and one is good.
Talk to me.
I'll start with the bad first.
All right.
So, we're flying. I think we got to California. We flew to California. Bro, I shit myself as a little dude. And my
No, Stevie couldn't see it.
And no, this before I got to the venue.
Okay.
My pops ain't have no change of clothes for me. So he had to wash out my pants and then get toilet paper and line the whole toilet paper layer by layer by layer by layer by layer in my pants for me till he got me to the hotel to buy some stuff and all that. But I don't know why I remember that. Maybe it was just because it was so traumatic. But I distinctly remember that being in the toilet stall, crying.
That's
You know what I mean? And then we had to switch up and then go, and he had to switch me out. And I just remember just the feeling of like the embarrassment feeling, and my father like looking like, what am I even gonna do in this situation right now? And keep in mind, he's a young father at this point. He's probably mid-20s. You know what I mean? And so he's just like, what am I even doing right now? Like, I got my little man out here. So he took me, boom, they wound up, but I remember that distinctly because then I think that's when we got to the venue after that, and that's why we was with Stevie and all that. So I distinctly remember that. And then I also remember that night, because they were called the Midnight Band. It was Gil Scott-Heron and the Midnight Band. Yeah. And my pops was like the leader of the Midnight Band, right? Okay. So I remember he had me with the baddie sitting on the lap. Yo.
To go from my shit on myself to, all right, let's go.
You know what I mean? You got that story, but I don't even think I've ever even told anybody publicly that story, bro. I don't even think that's you got an exclusive right there, bro. That ass. But I remember just like her just taking care of me, and I just remember being with nothing but beautiful women because they had to watch me.
Yeah.
Like I had to be, I'm 3 years old. I can't be. He can't. Yeah. And he didn't really want me like behind the stage where all the extra shit going on. Right. So he would get me like the outside, right up front VIP type situation or whatever, or some real exclusive, like this security, watching her, watching me. But it was always a baddie, bro. I was always with like beautiful women. That's all I like. From my youth, I had nothing but beautiful women constantly around me. And I think that's why even as I got older, I just got accustomed to women as having a presence of women around me, and always feeling comfortable with women around me because I just grew up with just and queens, bro, queens.
And it's not, you ain't jumping out the window because it's not rare.
Right.
Like you see a lot of guys, like you could tell, like, man, you never been around.
Right. You don't know how to act.
You don't know how to carry yourself.
Right. You don't know how to. And then I was always very eloquent for my age. Like I said, I knew the planets in the solar system at 3. You know what I mean?
So conversation was...
my conversation. I blew a lot of grown people away behind my conversation. So they would always want me, like even my uncle, he would always bring me places just to talk to people. Just to talk. Like, nephew, say this, And they'd be like, how old is he? How, what? So I was always way ahead of my time. Like even in grammar school, I was like, by 4th grade, I was already reading on a college level. You know what I mean? Like, that was one thing. Like I'm highly educated and not just school. Because I didn't even go back to get degrees. Like I didn't finish school. I pursued entertainment, music business, and then I went back as an adult with kids to college. You know what I mean? But even before then, I was already scholarly level because of the books that I was reading. You know what I mean? And like our library trumps any college library. Like our house library was crazy.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So so the guilt thing, it was just a beautiful experience to be able to be on the road. See, and I didn't realize that I was a celebrity kid then.
Gotcha. Because
I was on their promotional material. And I was on this one banner. He had Gil had one banner that RCA did for him, and it was his management. It was I think you and me management, and it was a picture of me and him holding me at like 3 or 4, and I had my trap sticks and I had my own set of drums already at that age. And so it was a picture of him, and that was like when we would go to like other like celebrities' houses or other, they would have that on the wall. They would have the picture of Gil and us on the wall. That was a famous poster. It was posted outside of their tour dates and things like that. You know what I mean? So even now, I found out, I just happened to just be Google searching, and I found the picture on eBay. They sold it for like $55 on eBay.
That's
The
crazy.
original photograph with the RCA, Arista Records,
Yeah.
BMG, all that. Yeah, because he was the first artist signed to Arista.
You don't want it?
Huh? Do I want the picture?
Yeah.
I have it.
Oh.
I have it. My aunt actually gave it to me, and she gave me a copy of it when I was opening up for him at SOBs back in '96, I think it was, somewhere around there, mid '90s. She came and put it in a plaque for me and the whole thing for me and gave it to me.
That's
yeah,
dope.
I had that. Yeah, for sure.
So you said you went out to Buffalo, went out to SUNY Buffalo, right? Played football. What prompted you to start making the racial unity T-shirts?
Well, I met my boy Chris Royce, cool white boy Italian dude, and he was my he was my dorm mate. He wasn't my roommate. He was my dorm mate.
Yep.
And I forgot how we just on the floor. You know, you come across people, and what was dope is like they had the fish tank, and they had all exotic fish, and you know. 17, I wasn't even, because I was in college early. I was in college at 17.
Got you.
So, you know, that's high end. Exotic fish, like there's real salt water in here, real plants in here. Like his fish is eating like they piranhas and stuff like that. Like we used to feed him.
Yeah.
So we used to sit up and get lifted all night and be, chilling and just like we got real tight. And he told me like, listen, I have a business called MEM Enterprises, Marketing Entrepreneur Management. And we have these designs, and he showed me like the Unity shirts, and then I was like, yo, that's fire. Like he had the hand, black and white hand, and some other world peace stuff. So what he did was he pressed up some shirts and stuff, and he asked me to kind of like help him go to the campus. So basically what we did was we went all through UB. Now keep in mind, it's like 28,000 people at that college. And we was selling these shirts door to door, raising money. We had the stickers printed up, all type of stuff. We was doing this stuff. And I believed in his vision. Like, I believe he was a pure heart. He colorless people. But his two partners, one of them was super cool. Another one was a little, not that he wasn't cool, but I think like, when you kind of have like white privilege, you feel like you're above people. Mm-hmm. He didn't like the fact that I was a part of the organization. And he didn't like the fact that I wasn't a day one. And he didn't like the fact that Chris was gravitating towards me the way he was. And then eventually made me an on-paper partner. Mm. So he checked out. The minute I officially was in, he was out. And then the other one was like a martial arts expert. He was a sweet dude, good dude, man. I don't want to say nobody's name because I don't want to, other than Chris. That's my guy. But so long story short, one day we're at this festival. It's a music festival, and Third Base was supposed to be coming. Def Jam, Third Base, first white rap group ever signed to Def Jam. And so they pull up and they park in the wrong spot. They park literally like almost next to where we're set up with our vendor spot. So I didn't see it at first, but my guy goes over, he gives them one of the Unity shirts. So then he comes over like, yo, bro, like, MC Search is over there. Yo, go bring one of the shirts. So there's a famous picture of me for the very first time meeting Search, handing them the shirt, right? Boom. So they wind up, Search wears the Unity shirt on stage. They kill their set. Now, because I'm a football player, I know all the bouncers. They're all football players, which I didn't even know it was going to be that way. Yeah, but it just wound up being like, I seen the first line of defense, they had all football players, and then they had other internal security back. But they were like, we're just going to have these big dudes for the y'all going to be, and nobody told me the team. So when everybody else is like, won't go past the line, I see my fellow freshman, I walk right past him. He don't say nothing to me. That's my guy. I'm in the trenches with him. He ain't saying, you can't, what you doing? So I went straight through, got behind, brought my team back behind. We wound up meeting Search. We wound up meeting Zevlov X KMD, who's AKA MF Doom, who passed away recently with Mass. But he's Zev and Subrock, who's rest in peace because he passed away before this. So so we wound up chilling with them, and and my boy, he's so smart, Chris. He had wrote a letter in anticipation if he met them. And I mean a very, like, almost like a business plan type, I'm gonna, if I prepare. That's why success is when opportunity and preparedness meet. That's when success happens. Because you can get the opportunity, but if you're not prepared for it, so he was prepared. So he gives them the thing, right? So they like, yo, so he gives them a letter, whatever. He's like, yo, I wrote this letter for y'all, da-da-da. And so Pete is like, yo, bro, like, Search is wearing a shirt. He's like, yo, your shirts are dope. Where can I get a shirt? So we looked, and we're like, yo, there's like a sea of people. and our table's on the other side of this sea of people. So I was like, well, and he's like, bro, I'm not walking through the gauntlet to get, because he already knew he'd have been raped and pillaged going through there, like, you know what I mean? And I kind of like, so I just said, and I had the crispy one on, I had the crispy one on. I said, boom. And he said, he looked at me like, you know what I mean? Like, hugged me, like, yo, I ain't gonna, and they said, we ain't gonna forget y'all. They got on the bus. That summer, I get a call from Chris. We wasn't even home maybe 3 weeks into the summer. Because I had to come back. This is when I made the decision not to come back and play. I had to go to summer school. Because my whole first year, I was just having a great time. I wound up with like a 1.4 GPA. Like, yeah, it was like, you need a 2.0 to be eligible for next year. Yep. So you got to come, you know. And it wasn't like I was dumb. I just wasn't even barely going to class at a certain point in time. Like, I was playing Tecmo Bowl and Nintendo, Super Nintendo and all that stuff, and with my boys and going everywhere. And then I had every frat trying to recruit me. Every frat, the white boy frats, the black frat, so I wound up deciding not to do no frat, because to have done one would have offended everybody. The football frat wanted me hard, plus they was trying to maintain a black quota, because they were all white frat, and they were like, yo, we voted and we decided that, like, you decided I'm the coolest black person that y'all can accept, basically, to say what it is, like, you know what I mean, like, yeah I'm cool, but still, y'all ain't that cool for me, like, you know what I mean, but I rock with y'all on this football, but I can't call y'all my brothers like that, because I know y'all don't love me like that. I know y'all just using me for a quote at the end of the day. Yeah. Some of y'all do, but not all of y'all. The dudes at the top don't. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Just my football team does. You know what I mean? And all y'all ain't football. So so I was like, so I made a decision like, nah, I was gonna do that. So I wound up Chris called me like, yo, bro, I just got a call from one of the dudes who lived on our floor, met Search at a sneaker store in Brooklyn. And he was like, yo, bro, I remember you came to my college. He's like, yo, you went to UB? He's like, yo, you know the Unity Posse? Because he didn't know what our name was. He just knew the Unity shirt. He's like, yo, you know the Unity Posse? He's like, yeah, those was my guys. He's like, yo, I need you to here's my number. Had him call Def Jam. Ask for Leor Cohen.
No way.
Ask for Leor Cohen. I need to talk to these dudes. Somebody offered me $200 for their shirt in Canada. We call him up. He's like, yo, I need you to, like, we talked on the phone. He was like, yo, I need you to put something together and come to my house in Forest Hills, Queens. Come down here. I need you to come down here, right? Boom, and immediately, like, put something. So we get down there, right? And I remember, like, we had a joke. We had like a shirt where we had crayoned on, and we was gonna present that seriously, like prank him, like if this is the shirt that we really had, right? So we was already prepared to do that. So we get there and we show him the first, like we didn't show, we wound up not showing it to him, because when we got there, it turned serious real fast. Yeah. And he was like, nah, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. And this is dope, but I want this. And if you can't have this, the right one back to me, I go on tour next week. If you can't have this back to me by next week, it's a dub. So we literally beelined it back upstate, put it together, sent them had the next day him the joint, he approved it, and then he sent for us to go on tour, right? So I remember on the way when we driving back, him saying, yo, aren't you glad we didn't show him that fucking t-shirt first?
Yeah, y'all gotta stay home immediately.
Immediately get down there, right? But he wound up, but long story short, we wound up going on tour with Search. I didn't have to drop out, but I had to make a decision. Now I'm gonna lose a year of eligibility.
Yeah.
And so it was like, you know, and then I remember my pop saying, well, if you're gonna do it this year, that's fine, because I'm taking a year off to work on my PhD, so my bread ain't gonna be what it was. So, and he was only really paying, like, he wasn't, like, he had to pay much, because I already had the situation, the package for sports. Yeah. So he just had to pay, like, food and board type shit, that was it. And, but he was like, this would be perfect for him if I am gonna do that, you know what I'm saying? So, and plus I didn't want to be up in the summertime in Buffalo, like, going to school. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was like, I ain't really know people like that. I had a few family members, but I ain't really know. I was like, this is a month, like, go on tour or go sit, you know. But this will forever change my life, because I made my baby that summer and never went back. And I stayed in the grind. And so, you know, so after the touring and everything, and driving his car and sleeping in his crib and meeting NFL superstars and being everywhere, then things kind of died down a little bit, because they had their second album came out, and the rift started between them because Search was like into his wifey heavy. Like he had his little shorties, but before, you know, but once it was like real, like, you know, they got to that point where nigga, if you cheat on me, it's over.
Yeah.
He got serious with it, and she's a beautiful, amazing person and woman. So they got tight, and then it wasn't no more the boys. It was like, I'm gonna drive behind the tour bus now, and you know, there's no quicker of separation that starts when you're not on the bus, and you're not, and this guy's doing one thing and you're doing another. You're spiritual, and he may not be as.
You stop to eat when he
right. So that was the beginning of the, you know, of things starting to happen. So at the height of their success, they broke up, and kind of when that happened, it was like a split, you know, and we kind of like always was Search, you know what I mean? But then also, I was never a coattail guy. I was already working, like I had already met somebody else, their producer, Sam Sever, started a group called Downtown Science with this kid Bosco Money. And I wound up getting invited to that video shoot, and I met my first rhyme partner, who I formed my first group with, As You Are.
Gotcha.
So then we kind of started our own thing. So I wasn't really jacking what everybody else was doing or not doing. I still had the relationships. I still had the lifestyle. You know what I mean? So it wasn't, I was just focused on doing me at that time. You know what I mean? And then my family already being who they was, it wasn't like I was hurt for nothing really. You know what I mean? At that time, because everybody was leveled up. You know what I mean? So I was kind of just doing my thing. I was back, and that brought me back to the city.
Okay.
Where I stayed for years until I eventually came back up here as an adult. But yeah, I built my bones then. Like I mean, I did everything, bro. I was with everywhere. I got on radio. You know, I was with all types of legends and pioneers.
Yeah, so on the radio. How did you? Yeah, you ended up on the radio station.
105.9
FM.
I was with the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
A legendary crew. We used to come on right after the Awesome 2, which was KRS-One's people.
Got you.
And then after Silver Surfer, and he was a big time dude in the game. And so we were sandwiched in between two legends. And you know, we did our thing. Like we elevated and we were like the young guys on the block. You know what I'm saying? You know, and we got everybody. Like I remember we had Praz from the Fugees come on the show, and I'm talking about 14 million soul Praz, not pre-Praz.
Got you. Like
14 million soul Praz.
Got you.
Because one of my boys was Haitian, and he lived in the same neighborhood as Praz, and so he wanted to bring him in, and everything. And that was the beginning of them taking me more seriously because I brought him in, and it was like we had a little division too that happened because I came in. I started off as the publicist. Because first of all, I started off my partner was just a DJ there. He got the position, and then I would just kind of like pull up every now and again and hang out. And then eventually, they were like, yo, we trying to work with Sigfrid. I said, so why don't I be like the publicist? I'll do publicity. So what I would do is I would call from different locations and create skits and call in. And I used to have all these different voices that I used to use. I used to have to, you come to the Men's Barbershop, and like, you know, I would do all this. Come to the 7-Eleven. I did that. I had the Tony Montana. I was killing all these voices. So I would have girls on, you know, and I always like at that time, like I was international. I didn't date anybody that wasn't foreign. I was always, every girl I dated was literally from a different country. Gotcha. And so like I always just had these international like models and all types of crazy stuff that most people don't ever. It was crazy for me. And so I wound up always having that mystique. You know what I mean? So they'd be like, yo, we want you in here. You got to get in here. So I went from being a publicist to the co-host because Kevin Keefe, who was the main guy, he got burnt out. And this happens when you've been on radio. But and it's also because you have to leverage your situations. What I find is people get in situations and they don't just like you're doing right now. This podcast. You started off at one point and now it's leveling up. The quality of the people, the professionalism, the cameras, everything, the marketing that goes into it. Every year, every time, you need to get better and better and better and improve. So what I noticed is that they kind of were just stuck. And I came with fresh ideas. And so he kind of got burnt out, and it was the perfect time for me to slide in. So I went in from publicist to co-hosting to then hosting.
Gotcha.
And being the main voice. You know what I'm saying? And that's when we... And then Kevin Keefe wanted to come back. I remember one day we come in and he's sitting at the boards, unannounced. And it's like you could cut the tension with a knife. It was just like everybody was kind of just like, why are you here? I think he just understood and then he just phased himself back out. You know what I mean? And then we rocked out, bro. And really at the height of our success, I want to say it was 96 was the height, when we were at our height. And that's when we understood the powers that be. Because we started getting real, like, making real serious statements, having real powerful entities call in, people giving voices to, like, not the commercial aspect of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, real talk, you know what I mean? And then we broke Biggie's record, we broke some Wu-Tang, we broke Talib, we broke Dead Prez, we broke, you know what I mean? We started breaking a lot of records. So we started like, and then finally when it came to a head was when Mr. C from Hot 97 started coming. He wound up jacking our whole segment.
Okay.
And trying to go to Hot and doing what we did. Because he was a fan, but then he kind of like, you know, and it was like, you know how they, that's how it goes.
That's the industry. That's the entertainment industry
but we knew we had arrived when Easy Mo B, you know Easy Mo B, multi-platinum producer, Biggie Smalls, countless them. He calls in, because we used to allow call-ins. That's how we got popular. We started allowing people to call in. We had call, and I was using the voices. So I would be just clowning people, hanging up, just doing all types of stuff, funny stuff. And so Easy Mo B calls in. And he's like, yo, I'm driving around New York City listening to y'all right now. Y'all show is fire. He's like, I don't even want to, I got an appointment, but I'm delaying my appointment because I'm listening to y'all niggas. It's fire right now. So it was like, once it was like what, Easy Mo? And then I just like, more celebrities. So all of a sudden, we trying to get bread, people paying to get on the station, everything back then, you know what I mean? Just to get, because we paid for our slot. So it wasn't like we just had slot.
Yeah.
It was like a stack a month for that. And it was only once a week. And we came in one day and it was like a pink slip. And it was like, yo, we have 10 days left. And they sold the station. They made, the powers that be made him an offer that he couldn't refuse, like 7 M's. He even paid not even a fraction of that. That's when you know that's when you know what time it is.
Yeah.
That's when you know what time it is. They wasn't gonna leave. There wasn't gonna be no artistically. I'm the culture. Yeah, we just paid you to not be the culture.
Facts.
We paid you to say F the culture.
Go away.
Go away.
Take the money. Go away.
Take the away. So they took the station. They turned it to AM radio. And they gave they turned it to a 24-hour Hispanic radio station. So it was like
all the way away from.
So they got all the way away from hip hop.
Possible.
Right. They went to Spanish on 105.9, and they gave us 10 something AM. They were like, yeah, y'all can go to an AM slot. And I remember the first day we walked in there, it felt like we was in like a church that was empty. Like, you know, you're walking to a church, but there's no one in the church. That's how we felt. We're in church, but there's no one here. There's nothing here for us. And we tried to do one show, and we were like, ain't nobody listening to us, because people had tuned in and it was over. And we didn't really have the time to really tell them like, yo, this isn't gonna be. It was like abrupt. It was very abrupt. And we were on AM, and we tried to do the AM thing, like I said, 1 week, and I was just like, I'm out of here, because ain't nobody turning on AM radio to listen to no hip hop. That ain't the thing. That ain't the thing now. That ain't never really been a thing. Nope. Unless you was listening to talk radio.
Facts. Or
church radio. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nobody's...
1010 Wins News.
Nobody's waking up to MOP.
Nah. Nobody's doing 2020 AM radio, 750 AM, no. So we were like, it was over. And it was just like that, it was over. And that was kind of like my first, understanding of how the politics is and everything. So it was kind of like from there, I just got deeper into the music. And just started really making a lot more records and performing a lot. Soul Kitchen, SOBs, like everywhere it was really at, Lyricist Lounge, stuff like that. We was just everywhere, networking. And then my big break came when Subcult 96, there was a conference out in Copenhagen, Denmark, right next to Amsterdam.
Gotcha.
And it was 2 weeks of all during the week, there's workshops and murals and graffiti and vendors and stuff. And then on the weekends, there's all performances. But Friday night, it was the locals performing, I think. Or was it? No, I think it was either Friday night and Saturday night was New York hip hop. And then, prominent hip hop, which was predominantly New York. And then Sundays, it was like the locals, like how it was, like local artists. So it was supposed to be Lord Finesse, this one particular weekend, it was supposed to be Lord Finesse and Mobb Deep. And so my manager at that time, my boy Frankie, he was like, yo, bro, like, I just got a phone call. Because his wifey lived in Denmark, so he would just be flying up to Denmark all the time. He was just that dude, you know what I mean? And so that's why we asked him, the manager's like, yo, and he was like, you know, I know y'all dudes is the real deal. And I'm like, I got this opportunity. Prodigy has sickle cell, and they had to back out of the slot. So y'all could go, they want somebody to fill in. So I told them, y'all more than capable of doing that. So I was like, what? We're on this. We're in there. You are manager now. Like, so we wound up, and the way we did it, because we had no bread. We had no bread like that, like you know, for that level.
Yeah.
And we wasn't getting paid. It was just the opportunity. So that's why I like when I look at dudes out here, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, as far as like, you can have anywhere as your home base, but you got to travel to where it's at, when it's at. Like when Atlanta was popping off, let's believe I was out there, and I'm still out there, quiet as kept. You know what I mean? Family, I'm going to get property out there, Airbnb, the whole nine. Like, you know, I'm out there. So you got to know when to be where.
But
you know,
you have a quote that I have here that I was going to actually elaborate on. Okay. Art with no business sense won't get you far.
Right.
Okay.
So that's exactly, yeah. That's a whole fact. Art with no business sense will not get you far. That's a fact. So we knew what it was. So we found a situation, which I don't know if this still exists today, but there was a company that they're like, what they do is they take over your space, your luggage space, and they put courier stuff. So if I'm trying to ship 50 or 1,000 t-shirts to Denmark, I'm like, yo, listen, I'll buy your ticket for you, or I'll pay a portion of your ticket for you, but you got to let me use your luggage space. So you just get one carry-on.
Fact, you just get your carry-on.
So we did the duffel bag army. I just got out the military, homeless duffel bag type situation, like no frills. I had the Timberland duffel bag. That was as fly as I could get. It was Timberland, and it was all just a straight duffel bag stuff, as much stuff as you could get on one flight, put it overhead, that's it. And they take over our own spot. So it was like these DSL type things where they used our luggage, and we had to pay like $600 for the flight, right? But we had to go staggered. So it was 3 of us. So one had to leave on Monday, one had to leave on Tuesday, one had to leave on Wednesday. So imagine we 17, 18 years old, flying to Copenhagen, Denmark. By ourselves, hoping our guy's gonna be there when we get there, with limited funds.
But
we didn't have no hotel suite reserved. We were supposed to be staying at some family member who was going on vacation was allowed, which would wind up making the whole trip, because we stayed in the town. So we got the real experience. Where everybody else is just coming, doing one show and leaving, we stayed for the whole thing. So when I flew in, my boy was there, and my man came, and we was all there, and then we wound up.
You was second.
Yeah,
in the middle.
I was first.
Oh.
My boy was second, and then my other dude was third. Yeah, I was first. I got there first because I remember the jet lag, because of time. Like, you get there and it's a whole nother day. You got to live on a whole nother day. And I made the mistake of staying up watching Happy Gilmore or something. Like, because I had never seen it. So I wound up staying up and watching that or something. And I flew out, and I had to live a whole nother day out. So I remember being there by myself, and then putting me in some room and just because it was still light outside. Yeah. So I was like, yo, just shut everything down. And then, well, what was great though, because I was such a night owl, it wound up translating well for me in the end, because of how I always stayed up super late. So it wound up working out, where it actually made me a regular person when I came home. Yeah. So I went out there, and then we got out there, and then we was out there with Bobbito, and for those that don't know, Stretch and Bobbito were the ones who really broke Wu-Tang Clan, like officially broke Wu-Tang Clan on NYU college radio, and so Stretch was out. I mean, Bobbito was out there. And he was doing a radio show with one of the DJs who was on air out there. He was already linked in because he had just got a Nike endorsement deal. So I think he was out there on behalf of Nike. Plus it was like, and Rocksteady was out there to break that. He's a member of that. So it was like the break dancer. So I got out there and I was with nothing but legends. Cool. Like, I got all types of pictures with me and Kool Herc. You know what I'm saying? And like, I mean, a young Kool Herc too. Yeah. Like, just chilling with Kool Herc. Multiple pictures actually of us at stations and just with all different types of people, and the vibe was so crazy for us that there was like a DMC DJ championships where, like, you know, like the best DJ of the year. So we was out there with the Executioners, Rock Raiders was out there, and this German dude wound up winning, right? So when we was going to do our set, we didn't have a DJ. why the DJ, winner of the whole best DJ in the world, DJs for us for free. Just off the strength. You know what I mean? And we bodied. I remember Lord Finesse, like after I came off there's a famous part. I don't know if I told this on Bumps thing or not, but there was so I'm performing, and my name of my group is called As You Are. Mm-hmm. And we had a song called Strange Brew. It was a song dedicated to Gil. And because we was on his imprint at that time, we had a little subsidy. Yeah. So we were like, so the chorus is, my boy be like, strange things keep happening to me. And then my part was like, come as you are, time to fulfill the prophecy, right? So we had made these flyers of all these different places that we had been all around the world. So we had As You Are all around all these countries. So I'm throwing out the flyers, right? So I go in my back pocket, thinking I'm throwing out flyers. I threw my passport into the crowd.
I think you did mention this.
Yep. I threw my passport into the crowd, bro. And I didn't know. So I threw my passport into the crowd. And so I'm feeling, so I'm going, and then all of a sudden, like, he's doing his part. And then all of a sudden, Bobito, who's sitting on stage with us, chilling with us and everything, he comes over like, yo, because they call me Faith Child back then. Yo, Faith, you threw your passport out, bro. They gave you your passport back, bro. Like, yo, and he's telling me like, yo, they gave you your passport back, bro. And I looked at it, and I turned around, and it came to my part for the thing, and I said, come as you are, time to fulfill the prophecy. And everybody, everybody just went crazy. Everybody went crazy. And so
today that would have went viral.
That was viral. That was viral. And so, we didn't have social media back then. So, so that happened. And then I remember coming off the stage and Lord Finesse coming over to me. He had his elbow like this.
Yeah.
And he was like, nigga. Yeah. You feel me? He gave me like the real, like, you know what I mean? Nigga killed this shit. So and then we went back, and then when I was going like, cause there's an upstage VIP. So now when we coming out that, and we're coming down the backstage, bro, there was a gauntlet of Danish women.
Here you go with your foreign.
There was a gauntlet. And if you know, I didn't make it through.
I didn't make it through.
I was kidnapped halfway through the gauntlet. I wound up somewhere. So it's just like, bro, and I just remember like, cause Danish and European women, cause there was Germans over there. There was like African women over there is not African women over here. Danish women over here is not it's like when they're purebred, bro. Their bones are bigger. Yeah, they're big girls like in every way, voluptuous, crazy. And I just remember like, I couldn't even like it was crazy, bro. It was crazy over there. And then I started flying foreigns back to the States. You know what I'm saying? And so it was like, yeah, man, it was a great time. We wound up staying there far after the time. And we were riding around like it was bicycles. Everything was bikes. Yeah. Bro, what gas is now, it was then.
Over there.
So them niggas is skateboarding, right? Yo. They skateboarding, bro, because they was bicycles then. I mean, and the crazy thing is they don't have like locks. They got little baby locks, like these little attached to their bike. Like it's just like a little thing, like this thing. And you're like, man, give me this shit. Like, you know what I mean? But in front of supermarkets, in front of everything, bikes, and you could get a city bike and ride it. So we would get the city bikes, and then you just drop off wherever one's at. You don't have to pay for it. Just get it, ride around, and put it back, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? So we went through the whole town because we were staying actually in the city, and we had a chill little spot. I remember like their tub was crazy. It was like some weird tub I had never even been in before, and they had like their bathroom was like a graffiti wall. Like any guest that came over. So I actually have the videotape. You just reminded me that I have all of this stuff on video. What I'm telling you, everything I have on video. I have it. I have it. I gotta go into the archives.
You gotta go dig it.
I gotta go into the archives. I have it on like one of them 8mm type tapes.
Got you.
Yeah, I have, and I have a converter to a VHS deck, so it goes into the box and then goes into a VHS. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to convert that over to digital. Yeah. But yeah, I have some vintage stuff.
Yeah, we need to see some of that.
I have some vintage stuff. Just like with the radio show, I have a lot of I have me and Common Sense freestyling on my show.
Yeah, you said that on.
We had like a little.
You posted a picture.
Yeah, me and Common and one of the Executioners and No ID, producer No ID.
Yep, No ID.
Yep, and yeah, I got so much. There's so much because I have my photographer there, so he caught everything. There's so many pictures, bro. Like people, that's nothing. That's nothing. I have a treasure trove.
Yo, I was just talking to somebody yesterday during the interview, and I was telling them when I was younger, I didn't care about that. So I was around so many people that now that I got a man cave and I got space, and
yes.
if I'd have had a picture of me and them, I would have put it up. I would have had that.
I know. If
I would have had this person autograph, I could have been got this. No, I just was.
If I knew now what I know,
yeah,
I would have had a whole gallery, just a gallery for viewing.
All right, so ultimately you end up back in Albany, like you said, you went back to school, and let's get right to Past Life Radio.
So, Past Life Radio, I was fortunate to get the WCDB situation because my uncle, God rest his soul, OJ, Dr. Joseph Bowman, he was one of the original pioneers of that station.
Gotcha.
And so he had been doing a successful jazz show for 17 years called The Maiden Voyage. So when I was going to the new school, my pops was like, holler at your Uncle OJ, you need an internship. Like, cause I was like, yeah, they got these little jams and all that, but they wanted to get coffee and all that. I ain't doing all that.
Yeah.
So he said, just holler at your uncle. So I hollered at him and he made me his production assistant. And what he did was he gave me a whole list of every nonprofit in the 518. He said, I want you to contact all these people and set up appointments. And that was the beginning of me, one, developing my contact list out here as far as for organizations.
Yes.
See, that's what you got to tap into. People don't understand that. You have to develop the relationships with organizations because then there's resources. Then you have access to their resources. And you providing them with a platform, they value that more than you even understand. Like, they'll do anything for you after you provide the platform. Because for one, it's the mystique of being on the radio, for one. And two, they know that they're able to reach the voice, especially if they respect your platform. You know what I mean? So they'll open their doors, open arms for you. You know what I mean? And I developed relationships that I still have to this day because of me bringing people on the show. So I did that for him. And I became the conduit where they didn't even really know him until they went to the show. So the whole time, their connection to the station was me.
Gotcha.
So I continued, like, after he passed away, before it was so crazy because it literally, like, the way it ended, my internship ended, and I wound up taking the on-air test to become an on-air DJ, which at that time they were still allowing community DJs to be a part of the station. They wrote that out of the Constitution now. If you're not affiliated with SUNY Albany, you can no longer be on the station.
Gotcha.
So I'm grandfathered in. So at that time, the main guy who did all his slot was 8 to 10, Thursdays 8 to 10, and my uncle's was 6 to 8. So I would do the 6 to 8, and then he would come after. So I developed a rapport with him. I wound up taking the test. I passed the test. Then they mess up the whole board, and you got to fix the board back and get back on air. I did that. So literally, my uncle had a stroke the weekend after he had the stroke. The internship just ended. He had the stroke. I passed everything. My first day, he died that weekend. It was almost like the passing of the torch.
Right.
Yep, I'll never forget that. And I remember talking on the phone. He was on speaker, and they were like, he can hear everything you say, but he cannot talk. So just talk to him. And I told him everything, they said he was in tears, and he's so happy and so proud of you.
That's fine.
Yeah, so so that's always with me. And then he left me these drops that I play too about the power of radio, because one of the things that his drops he always talks about is like, you never know who's listening to you. And even if it's just one person out there listening, that's the power of radio. It could be one person influential listening to you. That's the power of radio. And I learned that with my connection to the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
Gotcha.
Because one of his people who like book acts started listening to the show, and then put Jimmy onto the show. And then Jimmy came up here to see me perform at Larkfest in 2017. And then I got invited on the Tonight Show. And the only reason why I wound up not even going on the show, politics. She wound up getting like somebody cut her throat, and then usually like how it is when anything that was with that person.
Yep.
So now I got to go through a different door because that door closed.
Copy.
So it was like, but we had multiple times when we could have went on there. Like, I was supposed to go on there with Jay and Beyonce. That was the show that I was waiting for, but she got yapped before that show happened because we were supposed to go on previous shows that Jimmy wasn't going to be on. They're like, well, you can, if you want to wait to this, we'll put you on a J show, but if you want to go on this, Jimmy's not going to be on the show hosting that day. We got a guest host. So I couldn't, you ain't that guy. You want to do that. You want to do that. So I wanted Jimmy. So, but as a result, I wind up, but I still stand by that decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know, but based on the things I'm doing now, it's all kind of leading back.
Full circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you actually have 3 shows. Well, 2 shows, but the one show is cut into 2 segments.
It's a hybrid show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The Golden Era from 8 to 9 p.m. All classic Golden Era classic hits.
Mm-hmm.
And then from 9 to 10 p.m. the Next Level, which I feature up and coming artists. I break a lot of new artists. And then Saturday nights, Block Giants were on a cut where I can actually play curses, records with curses and stuff like that. The thing that's cool about the Next Level is that I was able to spin my podcast off of that. So, so that was like, I kind of felt like it was time for me to take it to another level.
Yeah.
Not only just as far as the 518 is concerned, but it was really symbolic for myself. Because I produced, recorded, and performed the theme song as well.
Yeah.
I could have outsourced that.
Facts.
I could have outsourced that to any one of my artists or anything, but I said, you know what? Every now and again, you gotta let people know what time it is. It's time. 10 years, it's time for me to do me right now. It's no more me. I'm going to help people. That's just how I'm wired.
Yeah,
but I have to be the centerpiece right now. I'm the one common denominator that always stays constant. I tried to put it on other people. I tried to empower people. They just don't have what I have. They don't have the charisma. They don't have the intellect. They don't have the intelligence. They don't have the history. They don't have. It's the full package. And sometimes it's just you could be on the trajectory of becoming that, but you still need more years in the game. You still need more skin in the game. You're not there yet. And so what you do is you exalt the person who is there. You push them up because what they're doing is breaking barriers for you. Like I'm making it easier now for people to come behind me, whether they know it or not. Everybody keep talking about, ain't nothing in the 518. There is. You just don't really know who it is. And you're not doing what you need to be doing, even if you wasn't in the 518. Because if you go somewhere else, it's going to be even harder because there's more competition. So it really ain't about you like necessarily having to like become a superstar here. It's about you building the framework and the foundation so that now you can go out into the world and do what needs to be done. That's what coming here did for me. It allowed me to focus. It allowed me to build content. I couldn't do it that way in New York. It was too many distractions between the women, between trying to keep up with the Joneses and have every fly sneaker on, and you know what I mean? And just all the other distractions that was just going on. Trying to stay out the streets, like, the gangster stuff that was happening that I was even a part of, just indirectly, directly. It was like you was taking your life. I can't even tell you. I had death threats on my life, and I was running with Bad Boy. And I was running with Black Rob, of all people, who's the most street nigga on the franchise.
Facts.
I was with him. We had all types of death threats.
Black Rob,
we had all types of situations. You know what I mean? So people don't understand. Like for me, it's just like I couldn't build the way I wanted to build. So I had to take a step back, real quick. So sometimes you need that.
Yep.
Take a step back out the scene, and you're able to view the scene better. When you're in it, sometimes you can't see it for what it is. So I took that step out, and I said, you know what? I'm a 5-year plan. Give me 5 years. 2010, 2015. 2015, I had my own studio out here, 100 State Street. 2017, I had an endorsement deal with Hennessy. 2016, I had an endorsement deal with Hennessy. 2017, I had a distribution deal with Sony. You know what I mean? And then I started, boom, and then I hit the politics wall again. There was some political stuff that happened. I made a record during election time, and it went against what the powers wanted. And then they shadow banned. They shadow banned my page, took my page from me. Yeah, I had a lot of stuff about to happen. They stifled my endorsement deal, put me on pause. You know what I mean? Yeah. So then I had to sit back and calibrate. Like, I see, said the blind man. Got to approach this a different way. And then you come to certain understanding. Then you start to really start understanding. Like, oh, so no matter what you think, it's still something else. Yeah. You can still do all this. And if you're not co-signed over here, it's still not going to happen. It's still not going to happen. There's a ceiling. So
and there's drugs that they can snatch out from under you whenever they want.
And that's the problem that I think a lot of artists don't understand. That even if you put a lot of money, even if you put a lot of time, if you're just not what the industry wants at that time, it's not going to happen. Right. So that's why you have to do test market things and other things to get feedback and see how this goes in algorithms.
Most people don't even know who their target market is.
Right. Who's your target market?
Most people have no clue. Right. Most people have no.
I was very clear about my target market.
Yeah, most people don't have a true fan base. They relying on friends, family, cousins, and.
How you think you getting a deal when you can't even get 20 people in the building? Come on. And you want to sit up here and blame the 518 for that?
Nah, no support.
There's no support. You're not commanding the support. I got 20 people that'll come up from New York City to my event, and did.
I had 12 of my friends from the town pull up for my birthday party at my house.
I'm talking about. So it's just like, no, you're just not who you think you are.
And this when I lived on Sheridan Ave, not even here. Like I live.
You're just not who you think you are, and your friends aren't who you think they are.
Yeah. All right, before I let you go, real quick, let's talk about what's it, the 7th Group Resource Center?
Okay, yeah. So the 7th Group Resource Center started out as the Knowles Foundation. That's my last name.
Gotcha.
And what we were doing was every year we did something called Peace Fest, Stop the Violence, because it was around 2015. I think we started doing it, and we did our first one in Swinburne Park, and it was successful. And then every year it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then finally, Mayor Kathy Sheehan came out and endorsed us. And so our main thing was just to make sure that kids were going back to school with the right frame of mind going into the school year. If they, with back to school supplies, only positive performances. Like everybody was trying to get on there. I wasn't letting everybody rap. Like you know what I mean. Like it was my band was headlining, and then I was letting only conscious people and positive messages sing. And then we had the vendors. So we kept bringing the community, and then finally Spectrum News came and it went viral.
Gotcha.
So so then we did one more after that, but we did it in Lincoln Park, I think, over there.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that, and there was no parking over there. So and that was a problem. So we said we're not gonna do that again. But ultimately, the pandemic hit, and we stopped doing it. So what we did do though was we realized like we can't keep coming out our own pocket, and we can't get the support that we need if we're not an actual legitimate foundation.
Gotcha.
With the 501c3 and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically rebranded ourselves as the 7th Group Resource Center Incorporated.
Gotcha.
We got our tax exemption status, and now we're getting funding.
Gotcha.
And so we're going to be expanding, new facility coming very, very soon.
Gotcha.
And as well as a new multimedia facility coming very soon.
Very.
So yeah, I'm just putting in the work, brother.
Right.
I'm trying to be what is needed here. There's a void here. And if and it's gonna take somebody special to fill it. So I'm stepping into those shoes.
Let's go.
Let's
go. So as far as the music and the Next Level podcast, let the people know where they can find it. Let them know one more time the times that you go on the radio so they can tune in and lock in with that. Yeah.
So basically, every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. is the Golden Era on WCDB 90.9 FM. That's SUNY Albany's college radio station. Very historic. I think it's 45 years in existence. It was one of the first platforms really doing hip-hop before jams, before Hot 99. It was college radio. And so this is like we're talking about one of the top college radio stations in the country. And people listen to us all over the world. And so I'm on every Thursday, 8 to 10. 8 to 9 is Throwback Golden Era. 9 to 10 I break new artists. And then Saturdays is Block Giants Run Uncut. That's from 10 to midnight during what they call the Safe Harbor Hour. So I can play unedited music during that time period. So you can reach out to me, to get on that platform. The podcast is entering the second season. And we just completed that. So that's out right now. You can go to Past Life Radio, PAST space LIFE space radio, Past Life Radio. You'll see both seasons. You see the trailer for season 2. I really stepped the game up. I got some great people, and then my episode just dropped. I always do the final episode. It's kind of like the culmination of the whole season, and usually I drop a lot of jewels, a lot of information. I tend to let so it's really very informative. If you watch the podcast, especially as it gets later into the episodes, like episode 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like it just ramps up every episode to the finale. But you will definitely learn something, no matter who you are, no matter how long you've been in this industry. You will learn something, you know what I mean? Because hearing somebody's story, everybody's story should be different. Don't ever think your story should be what the next man's story is or how they made success. It's never gonna be that way. If you see how Lil Baby made it, you're not gonna make it like how Lil Baby made it. You might not be willing to do the things that he was willing to do, or you just might not have the drive that he had, or you might not have, there's sacrifices that come with certain things, and people gotta understand that. So it's something to be learned from everybody's story. So that's why I study everybody. I'm a researcher. I watch everybody. I know everybody's platforms. I pay attention. That's why I'm here right now. So yeah, man. That's what it is.
Yo, real quick, I want to shout out Hood House of Hoops. Shout out to Warren and Denise Mackey Foundation. Shout out So Albany Clothing. Yo, and shout out Mr. Everyday for being here with us. Yo, that was another episode. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Yeah, man. Past Life Entertainment. We in the building.